Good morning, good
Good.
afternoon, wherever you're zooming in from. We are just making sure we have the technology ready for this. So give us about 10, 15 seconds and we're going to kick off. The world of Zoom, right, Elisa? Online.
I love it. I love it. Well, you know what? My hardest thing always is at the end when you end one of these because you don't want to kind of cut it off mid sentence because then people are like, "Wait, what are you saying?" So you end up just kind of sitting there awkwardly looking at the person you're interviewing, like, "Thank you."
And everyone's got the forced smile, like, okay, I have to hit the button.
Yes,
But I think we've all got accustomed to this. I just got off a call with a partner, and the dogs are barking. Everyone's kind
totally.
of, so we just,
We
we
just
roll
roll
with
with it. I
it.
love it though.
Okay. All right. Now we're going to really kick this off. So, everyone, welcome back to Goaldigger, Finding Your Voice on LinkedIn Live. I am Cate Luzio. I'm the founder and CEO of Luminary and your host. And I am really excited on this Friday, the week before Thanksgiving, to have Elisa Freud, a Luminary member, a Luminary advocate, a Luminary partner, and the founder and CEO of She Speaks, among many other things, on today. We're going to talk a little bit about She Speaks and what they're doing and what they're up to. A recent survey that we partnered with She Speaks at Luminary and those results, and what kind of predictions we're expecting for 2022. So welcome, Elisa.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here and excited to be chatting with you again.
I know it's so, and you and your team were here at Luminary, I think a couple of days ago, a week ago. We missed each
Yeah,
other. So, but it's always this, we keep talking about I'm zoomed out, but it is so nice and flexible to be able to connect like this.
totally.
Right.
Totally. It helps. And it's nice to have a mix. It's nice to
Yes.
have a mix.
And I think
Nothing
that's the way
replaces
of the
the
future.
in-person.
That is the future, right? We
Mhm.
know that no one's ever going to be back 100% in person,
Mhm.
unless your job is in the service industry, if it's in a storefront. But this flexibility, I think, and this hybrid environment is such a unique part of our new world. And for women, has become really crucial and critical to their success and their career pathing. So
Yes.
we're going to talk a little bit about that.
Mhm.
But let's talk first,
Yeah.
because we've had you on once before on
Yes.
Goaldigger early on, and I think our partnership. But
Yeah.
can you, for those that are listening out there, and I'll remind people, put questions or comments in the chat. Can you let us know a little bit more about She Speaks and the mission? Because it's a big mission.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you for having me on again. I love talking to you, and there's nothing else like having women who are kind of advocates and kind of on that same mission. So speaking of our mission, we started She Speaks to start it back in 2008, and my goal back then was to build a stage for women and amplify women's voices. I had been in the corporate world for the first part of my career and doing marketing and product development and all those great things. And I felt like something was missing as it related to how companies talk to women as consumers. And I thought, I think I can help. I think I can help this by gathering the power of the voices of women to tell companies what they wanted. And so we started really as a research company, and our job was to help brands better understand what was going on in the hearts and minds of women. And I think the one thing that we did right just from the beginning, because oh boy, we did a lot of things wrong. But I think the one thing that we did right was we recognized that the community was everything. This community of women that we were building, that was the heart and soul of everything. They were our North Star. And that's kind of we didn't lose sight of that, which I appreciate. We've evolved because today what we do is we spend a lot of our time in the influencer marketing space, because a lot of our community members are influencers.
Right.
Back in 2008, nobody was calling them influencers. They were like mom bloggers. They were like these weird things that people would call them. And what we started to realize is that, wow, these women are building audiences and they have power in terms of their messaging. And wow, that like we can do something with that for the companies we work with. So we have evolved in terms of the way our business is structured and what we do day to day, but the mission is still the same, which is to amplify women's voices. So that's what we do and who we are.
So when we got introduced, it was like a match made in heaven, because as our focus is advancing women in the workforce, regardless of their professional journey, building community through content, programming, events, you all, that engine behind that, particularly around research. And I want to just ask a couple of little questions around that. So many brands, so many companies think of women in this homogenous way. Well, we're all the same. We all think the same. We all dress the same. We all look the same. And you could look at it from fashion to spirits to beauty. So much of what you are doing from a research standpoint is saying, what does a woman actually want? How are brands evolving to really show up for women today and talking to me and talking to you at the same time?
Yeah. Well, I think what the best thing that has happened for brands, although it's been a bit of a double-edged sword, is the fact that we now have social media, and anybody with an opinion can get on social media and share it, and other people will hear it. And you don't need to have 1 million followers for your opinion to be heard. It can be heard with, just a few followers, but then gets picked up and builds momentum, right? So I think that what has happened for brands is they have had to take a look at, okay, what are people saying? Maybe before it was private, maybe they had a 1-800 number you could call and complain on if you were a customer, or told your friends, right? I mean, that's one of the things that I used to work at American Express, and we always said, when a customer has a great experience with us, they on average will tell 3 people. When they have a terrible experience, they're going to tell 10 people, right? So you're just, you get very upset when things go wrong with a company. Now you can tell a whole lot more than 10 people when something goes wrong. Yeah. So I think what that's done is it's put the power into the hands of consumers, and women in particular. Women make over 80% of the purchasing decisions in the US. So it's really shifted that power into the consumer's hands and into women's hands. And I think the one thing, though, that I find so intriguing and wonderful about women in terms of how we how we navigate is, I think we really want brands to get it right. We are earnest in our interest for having them do it well. I don't think we want to break them down and just see them suffer. I think we truly want it to get to brands to get it right. So that is really the engine for what makes what we do work, because we go out to our community and we ask them to take these surveys. They're not paid to take these surveys, but they take the surveys nonetheless, and they tell us what they think. And then it's our job, and then partnering with companies like Luminary, to make sure that we are then pushing that out so that people hear what's going on with women.
I totally agree. This is not when we not only raise our voices or complain or let a company knows how they've disappointed us, right? You talk about that 3 number and the 10 number. I want to be shopping there. It's the reason why I'm giving you feedback, right? Because I want you to get better, because I want to continue to be a customer. I want to continue to buy your products. And when that goes unnoticed, that's when we walk away.
Yes. And I'm so glad you brought that up, Cate, because this is the thing that I found when we started doing this back in 2008, by virtue of saying to a woman, hey, make up a brand. I'm Dunkin' Donuts. Because I'm sitting here with my Dunkin' Donuts cup. I want to know what you think. How is the experience for you? By virtue of just asking women what they think, they build an affinity for your brand. And that's the thing that I just wish more companies understood, is just by virtue of asking, you are building that affinity that your customer has with you. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing for so many different reasons.
Agreed. And so let's dive into that, because we had partnered with you last year and
Mhm.
bringing out results around your 2021 survey and
Yep.
predictions, which we'll
Mhm.
talk a little bit about how they have changed. But then
Mhm.
we partnered in actually creating a survey that went out to both of our communities, She Speaks and
Yep.
Luminaries, and asking women how they were feeling, what they're looking for, what they want, how they're feeling about the political environment, their work
Mhm.
situation, health, mental health.
Mhm.
The results, even though they've changed a little bit from August until now, let's
Yep.
talk a little bit about some of those.
Yeah.
And I know we were catching up, and we hear so much about the negative these days. And listen, there is a lot that we can focus on. Um,
Mhm.
but let's talk a little bit about some of the results. And I thought we'd start with some of the positives,
Yeah.
versus just always the negative. One of the things that came up was that things are looking up at work. A
Mhm.
large majority of the women, 76%, felt that in general, women do have better prospects for advancement than they had 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And that men's attitudes towards women in positions of power have changed for the better.
Yep.
We dive in a little bit, again, compared to 10 years ago. Can
Yeah.
you dive in a little bit to that?
Sure. Yeah, and I think that that's one of the things that we love about asking women their perspectives, because we get so focused on what we're hearing maybe at a very macro level. When you actually go in and you start to ask women in these groups, like, what is going on with you, how are you feeling, you actually find that women do, on average, as you said, they're feeling better, right? 76% felt like their careers, in terms of their careers and prospects, were much better today than they were 10 years ago, and that men were actually more willing to have a female boss than they had been in the past. So, those are things that have traditionally been sticking points for women. And certainly, if you, depending on the age of the women that you're talking about, this is something that has evolved positively, in the last 10 or so years. And I think that when you look at the whole, right, that we had this pandemic and a lot of women ended up opting out of the workforce, and lots of women just kind of took a step back. When you then go back and you say to them, okay, these same people, all of these women, well, how are you feeling? There's still more positivity than there is, the concern that this pandemic is messing things up for us as we move forward. So I think that's one of the things that was really very encouraging for us, that women were not feeling like, oh gosh, this pandemic has really set us back in a way that we cannot overcome.
And when you think about the respondents, right? Because let's talk a little about the audience. Within the luminary community, anyone that responded or is either identifies from our demographic standpoint as, I'm a business owner, founder, entrepreneur, side hustler. I may be, I have a boss. I'm climbing the corporate ladder or some type of organizational ladder, or
Yeah.
I'm in transition. What is the She Speaks community, which is massive,
Yeah.
can be a lot of different things.
Yes. Yeah, we have women of all backgrounds. Our demographics very much kind of mirror US demographics. So we have women who don't work, they're stay-at-home moms. We have women who are working, we have entrepreneurs, we have like a whole lot of different types of people. And that's when we look at this group of people, about 2/3 that said that they're content in their current roles, that actually also includes the women who took that step back or have taken a step back and are not working. And I think that's also another thing that we are seeing, this shift, that used to be that women who weren't working, we were hearing from them that they felt very anxious about that. Like, am I doing the right thing? And what we're seeing over time is that it seems that women are evolving their thinking. They're getting more, if they, maybe they're stay-at-home mom, but they're starting a side hustle,
Yes.
as you talked about. Like, things are really changing in terms of the definition of what does it mean to be working? What does it mean to be an entrepreneur? What does it mean to be a mom? All of this stuff is evolving in the research that we've been doing.
Yeah, and I think, we've seen this past 20 months just how women have been impacted. I speak a lot about this, how women are looking at what does the workforce look like, how the future of work has evolved, but also women in particular saying, wait a second, I don't have to do what traditionally has been asked of me.
Yes.
And one of the new statistics that I'm loving, and we are celebrating Women's Entrepreneurship Day today.
Yes.
Right? Which is so happy Entrepreneurship Day.
Yes. Happy Entrepreneurship Day to you too.
Is that in 2020, 1.5 million new business applications were filed. That comes from the U.S. Census.
Wow.
40% have been filed by women. Awesome. And so whether someone said, I don't want this traditional path, I need new income, I've had an impact to my job, whatever that is, there are a substantial amount of new entrepreneurs. And remember, by the way, before the pandemic, women were starting companies at 1,800 per day. So you have an evolving workforce. The workforce is not what you and I joined, right? It wasn't, you're going to work for someone for 20 years, et cetera. And you can still do that, but it's evolved and thinking has changed in a very positive way. On the flip side, when we think about those women that we talked about in this survey, and how their lives have changed, particularly over the last 20 months, something that is still a very big red flag coming up is health and mental health.
Yeah.
And those statistics are a little bit more alarming because there is a significant concern around health and mental health.
Yeah, that is definitely something. And I'm glad you raised that, because it is one of the statistics that we found very concerning when we.
Oh, you went on mute, Eliza. You're back on. You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Sorry about that. When we asked our community what they thought about the impact of COVID, we expected that the biggest thing was going to be like concerns about their actual physical health. Like, am I going to get sick? Yeah. Did I get sick? Did somebody I know get sick? That was actually not at the top of the list. The most important thing in terms of the impact that COVID had on them, number one, was social. They felt like this social, like just not being able to see people physically in person, not being able to engage with people the way that they had in the past, that was a problem. That was a big problem. That was actually the number one concern. And then followed by that was the emotional and psychological impact.
Yeah. And then the one statistic that I read in our findings, when asked to choose the biggest issue facing our society today, the largest percentage, 35%, chose the economy and jobs. Obviously, we're heading into a recession, inflation's high. However, when asked to choose the biggest issue faced by themselves and their families, the largest percentage, 40%, chose healthcare.
Yes.
And within that, safety and crime is also a concern, but that 20% of women cited that also as the biggest issue. But when you look at that 40% chose healthcare, is healthcare a bigger topic or a bigger kind of umbrella catch-all versus just my health? Does that also include access for my kids? That includes just care in general.
Yes, correct. And this is not surprising when you think about the fact that healthcare costs are going up. So the average person might be seeing that in what they're paying out, right? In terms of of taking care of their own of themselves, or their family, when it comes to even covering the costs of healthcare. So when you ask people this question, yes, of course, maybe health is more top of mind now than it was pre-pandemic, right? Because everyone's now more aware of the fact that they can get sick, that they can maybe something very catastrophic from a health perspective could happen. But this is the thing that that now that they're aware of it, they're shifting their focus to, wait a second, this system doesn't seem to be working as well as it should. So when they talk about healthcare in this study, they're talking about the overall healthcare system.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's shown a bright light, particularly here in the US, on access, affordability,
Yes.
who has it, who doesn't. And certainly in the, in the depth of the pandemic, and depending on your state, who actually was suffering, where were they going? What does that look like? We are a very wealthy country, but that doesn't mean everyone is wealthy. And we know that, right? So how do you have that access? I think also the fear now of what could come next. There will be, or could be, another pandemic. What is that going to look like? And how does that paralyze not just the economy again, but the healthcare system?
Yes. Yeah, and I'm glad you're bringing up this this notion that something else could happen again, because emotionally, one of the other things that we ask and have been asking for several years, so we have trend data on this, is for women to tell us emotionally what are like the top 4 emotions that they're feeling. And during the pandemic, and even through where we are today, that one of the number one things was uncertainty. It was the number one emotion throughout the 20 months of the pandemic. And then it's kind of dropped down to like number 2, but it's still up there as one of the top emotions. And if you think about then what that does to human beings, right? To all of us, if our number one top emotion has been this uncertainty, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? It has such an impact on so many other areas of your life, right? It's hard to plan. It's hard. We ask people, hey, are you going to be getting together with your loved ones for Thanksgiving? And do you know the percentage of people who say, I don't know still? And it's like a week, it's next week. I mean, there's just this uncertainty. I think that we have to recognize is sort of now part of the fabric of how people are feeling.
No, and that uncertainty it's the health component. And if you're a business owner, is my business going to survive?
Yes.
The worry, the stress, that has so much, this constellation of impact. But then also for those, as we think about 2022 and return to the office, how is that going to look? I'm uncertain of how my employer's looking at that. Are people going to want to go back to exactly what it was before? So, and also because we're still in the pandemic, the goal line keeps moving, right? So it's like, oh, wait, I'm going back to work. Oh, no, I'm not. Oh, yes, I am. And so when in every single population, I'm a stay-at-home mom. How does that impact me? I'm a business owner. I'm a new professional. I'm a senior. All like in 20 years, when we're doing business case studies on this, it's going to be remarkable to see what has happened.
Yes.
I want to focus on 2 more things before I lose you. One of the other positive things that I love to read this, what that came out of the study, is women feel empowered. 82% of women believe that actions they take can make the world a better place. And does that make me feel good? Because despite the uncertainty and the craziness and the she session, women collectively are saying, we're not taking it anymore.
Yeah.
We're going to use our voices. We're going to be around that table, whatever table that is. We're going to create seats. We're going to pull up seats for others, and we can make change. And you're seeing that, Eliza, in politics. You're seeing that in business. You're seeing that in the entrepreneurial world. You're seeing that with women saying, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm taking a step back for the health and sanity of my family.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, yes, I agree with you. That was one of the best things that we observed from this study that we did together, was this feeling that women are realizing that they do have this power to have an impact on the world around them, to have an impact locally within their families. So I do think that that is one of the nice things that we have seen come about from what's happened over the last couple of years as it relates to the pandemic.
And we got to keep going, right? I've been using this analogy lately. A very good friend of mine, also a founder, Sarah LaFleur, told me early on in my journey, which is only 3 years old as a business owner, to just keep swimming, right? You just got to keep swimming. And I think whatever your journey is, or if you're taking time off, you just have to keep going. Standing in place doesn't help. And so if we can do that together and use those voices, we do really create change. We had in a panel last night around women in science with L'Oreal and these 5 women in science. And honestly, how hard it has been for them as scientists. Each of them were positive, Aliza, saying, I'm just going. I'm going to continue to go. I want to create change in the world. Okay, so we've got a few minutes left. We want to touch on, because you just finished, predictions for 2022.
Yeah.
Just to remind those that are watching or will watch this later, in August, in our survey and study, a third of respondents felt pretty positive about what 2022 is going to bring. But we've got some new results for those predictions. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things we like to ask people is, how do you feel about the direction that the country is heading? It's an important indicator for just overall, what the environment is like for you. And we asked this question, as you said, in the August study that we did jointly, and we had about roughly a third of the women said that they think the country is headed in the right direction. Now, yes, that's not the majority, but if you compare that, we just completed our study for our 2022 predictions, and we asked the same exact question. And now in comparison, that third has dropped to 19%. Wow. So only 19% of the women who participated in the study, and it's over 1,000 people took this most recent study, said that they think that a lot of them just don't think the country's heading in the right direction. And 47% said no. So 19% said, yes, I think the country's heading in the right direction. 47% said no, flat out. And then you still have, though, this large group, 34%, so more than a third, who just aren't sure. And that goes back to the uncertainty thing I said before. This is a trend that we are seeing in the last 20 plus months of the pandemic, that when you give people a chance to say they're uncertain or not sure about something, you get a lot of people who will weigh in with that. And these are people who normally would have had a very strong opinion, right? One way or the other before. But this uncertainty is the thing that we keep seeing over and over again. And unfortunately, as I said, that stat from our most recent study was pretty concerning.
Yeah, and I think I would be in that. There is a lot of uncertainty as a woman, as a business owner here in New York City. We don't know. And if you're watching what's happening in Europe right now, just around lockdowns again, it doesn't feel good. It never feels good to be uncertain. But back to that 82% feeling like we can change the world and we are good. You are one of them, Aliza. And I love being a partner with She Speaks. I love what you guys are doing. And I've put up there, if you want to find more, if you don't know the organization, you should. Whether you are a woman or a man, doesn't matter. Follow She Speaks at She Speaks Up. And can't wait to see those results live. Hopefully we can do an event in 2022, Aliza, to talk about those predictions and what that means for women in 2022.
That would be awesome. Thank you. And we love partnering with you guys. It really helps feel like we are, kind of together on this mission. And I'm a big believer that we are just better when more women get together and make the magic happen.
And one quick shout out to you and a woman that you worked with at American Express. Her name is Jessica. She is now part of MasterCard. She was on a session we led earlier this week with Ann Cairns for MasterCard. She DM'd me and said, I used to work with Eliza at American Express. I saw that you were having her this week. I unfortunately have a client meeting that day, but I really want to tell her she was such a mentor, even if she didn't know.
Oh, that's so wonderful to hear. Thank you.
I had to make sure I told you.
Thank you for saying that.
Yes. Well, have a great weekend. Have a great
too.
Thanksgiving, and we'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Bye.
Great. Bye-bye. And everyone, don't go anywhere. We have back-to-back episodes today at Goaldigger, and I am super excited to bring on, there she is, that gorgeous woman, Elizabeth Lewis, who is the founder and CEO of Brand Style and Bloom. Elizabeth, hello.
Hi, I'm so happy to be part of this. I'm literally typing on my LinkedIn profile to tune in right now. So I'm sending that. I just posted it. Let's go.
All right. So hi.
Hi. So good to see you. It's been a while.
I know. I always say, and for those of you, Elizabeth has been a longtime Luminary member, and every time I get to see her, she brings so much energy to the space and everyone she talks to, because there are very few people, even despite what we just talked about, all the uncertainty and everything that you've gone through, that remain as positive and give out such good energy than you, Elizabeth.
Oh, that is such a compliment. That really means a lot, especially coming from you. So thank you so much.
Well, it is 100% true. So let's talk. We have a couple of topics we're going to talk about today with you. So first, let's talk about your company pre-pandemic.
Perfect.
Talk about navigating sort of what you've been doing and then how you're looking at 2022. So can you give us a little bit of background, your story, and then lead us to the company? But I want to focus on who you were before and then how you've evolved, because I think these stories of how we've adapted and pivoted through COVID, and you are a great example.
Oh, well, thank you for that. So, oh man. So before the pandemic really hit, my company was about 6 months old and I had just joined Luminary. I'd come from the corporate world. I worked at Colgate-Palmolive in brand management, working across a variety of different brands. And I have a puppy who's ruffling some plastic. So I'm removing that from her as she's looking at me with very sad eyes. But anyway, I had just transitioned out of that. My company was 6 months old. And I joined Luminary probably a month after I left corporate, because I just didn't know any other entrepreneurs. And I really needed just a network of other people who are in that same boat, because I'm thinking this is an entirely different world. Like, I need my support system.
Yes.
So that's what attracted me to Luminary. And at that point, I was just in the very beginning stages of really figuring my business out. I mean, I'd done all my projections. I had my business plan. But things were going a lot slower than I thought they would. I think I just came in with maybe unrealistic expectations. And I've learned over time as an entrepreneur, like, you can think, pie in the sky and everything, but, it's probably good to dial things down, even though you have good expectations, just being realistic.
Yes.
So, I was just kind of like trying to figure things out. I was going to lots of different networking events, like really good ones at Luminary, really good ones elsewhere, and just meeting other people in that world and other people who I could connect with. And I think for me, like, when the pandemic hit, it was really scary, like it was for a lot of business owners, because I'm thinking, I'm just barely starting out. I'm just barely getting my feet wet. I developed a corporate workshop that I was just beginning to kind of shop out. And then any initial conversations that I had were just kind of wiped out, because there was a little thing called the pandemic and no one knew what was going on. So, I was just really forced to just sit down and hunker down and really think about my business and think about, okay, what is something that I can do that is relevant for people right now? They're not necessarily going into the office and having to dress up. How can I look at style in other ways? I'm a personal stylist and brand strategist, so that's kind of where my head was. How can I work with people one-on-one? How can I adapt my professional workshop to the virtual world? So I really just hunkered down for a few months trying to figure that out, and also just trying to manage my mental health and my attitude. because I was scared.
Yes.
No one's coming in. Nothing. So I'm thinking, how am I just going to survive? But what I did was really just try to focus on people's needs at the moment. So I developed a membership community called the Style Wellness Membership Community. And I was inspired to do that personally because when the pandemic hit, I was wearing pajamas. I was, not really dressing up each day. And for a stylist, we believe in that, but I wasn't doing it. And that reflected in my attitude, and I didn't feel productive. And I made a change probably a month later when it looked like things weren't really coming back anytime soon by wearing like maxi dresses. And I chose maxi dresses because it was one piece of clothing, so I could still feel comfortable. But at the same time, it was a real piece of clothing. So, and I could wear different colors and different prints and just have more of that vibrancy come back. And I started thinking, wow, this is making me feel better. Is this based in anything? And I discovered something called the study of enclothed cognition. And I won't bore everyone with the details. It's worth looking at. But basically, it proved that what you wear has the power to impact your mindset, the way you think, the way you feel. And so I started a membership community around that idea because people weren't going into work, but how could what they wear actually impact their mindsets and attitudes? And that I felt was a need for people, and that seemed to resonate. So that's something that I did during the pandemic. Then I adapted my corporate workshop virtually, and Disney was the first company to bite, and I'm so grateful to them. And it went well, and so I've done it with a lot of other corporations since. And then now that people are back out again, I'm also doing one-on-one personal branding and styling. I'm also doing business branding. I became a WeNYC business coach. So a lot of people have been starting businesses, and I'm able to kind of lend my perspective from my branding expertise to help them get off on the right foot. So right now, lots of opportunities, lots of things going on, lots of things in the cooker, and a very different picture than it was pre-pandemic, for sure.
Think about that, Elizabeth. Like, I mean, when, I like to say, particularly for women, and women of color, I think, as we've seen, certainly have been disproportionately impacted during the pandemic. When push comes to shove, we're out there, right? We're going to figure it out. You took some time. You didn't sort of panic. I mean, we all panicked a little bit, right?
Yes, there was panic.
But you took some time to figure out what was relevant, how you could approach your business in different ways. And now when you think about it, we're 20 months into this, what that looks like, even from 12 months ago to now is pretty remarkable. And now you're working with companies, something that even when I first met you, you were like, how am I going to get in there?
Right.
And now you're in there.
Exactly. And I remember sitting down with you and having those conversations, and I'm like, how did she do it? I want to learn from her and be a sponge. And you gave me some great advice that really helped to feed into that, for sure.
Well, let's talk a little bit, because I know we have women that are working in companies listening and watching, as well as men. So we love our male allies.
Yes, we do.
But when you work with corporates, what are you talking to them about?
Yeah. So what I talk to them about is how to really look at their vision and understand what their vision is of where they want to go in life, and then develop the qualities to help them achieve that vision, and then express those qualities through their personal style, through their personal brand, and through thinking about career decisions in that light. So this really came about when I was working at Colgate. We would spend a lot of time looking at the packaging of different products. And at first I kind of wondered, why do we spend so much time doing it? But then I realized that not every product gets a big advertising budget. So it's really important to pop out on the shelf and get noticed by the shopper. And I started thinking about that through the same lens with people. We can have the most wonderful products. We are wonderful products. But if we don't know what ingredients to focus on inside of ourselves, and then how to express those externally, because we don't get anywhere in life on our own, then we often don't reach the goals that we might have for ourselves. So that's really how that was born. And so in these workshops, I help people discover like their 3 words for success. So we do a whole creative workshop around, what's your vision? What are 3 qualities and words that can help you get there? And then how to activate those words. So through their style, through color psychology, through thinking about every piece in their closet through the lens of those 3 words, which means removing things from your closet if they don't fit that vision and those qualities. And then your online presence, so like thought leadership that you put out there. And then the 3rd tier is through career decisions. So if you're looking at a new job within your company, or if you have a certain goal within your company or elsewhere, how do you use those 3 words to develop them in those roles and beyond?
So much of this, and I think and both of us coming from corporate America, right? Yep. You in kind of that CPG, me banking, presence is such a big part of our careers, and whether we like it or not, it's a big part around promotion and acceleration and standing out. I often would have people coming into my office, younger women, new professionals, saying, how did you develop your style? We work in a bank. But also it's not just the style, it's how you project yourself, how you talk about things, how you know your audience. And so when I think about what you're doing, it can start with that sort of external, but so much of that is holistic and tied together.
Yes, absolutely. It's a whole package.
The whole package. Yeah. So the other thing is, and so you mentioned Disney, great. I mean, congratulations, Disney, you have an amazing woman that you're working with, which is awesome, because the other thing that's happened, I think, in this past, 20 months, and we're still in it, and we're likely never going to be out of having some type of hybrid virtual component, regardless of people coming back into their offices or the spaces where they work. But presence virtually is also so important. When you're in a room, there's that, I get that body language, and everyone gets my body language because I can't help but talking with my hands, but not everyone is like that. And so on a screen, it's even harder to, how do you come across presence wise, your volume, the way you're projecting yourself. So as you're building this and you're kind of building while flying, do you feel like this is even more important for women as we continue in this hybrid world?
Oh, absolutely. And especially since it's hybrid, you need to know how to do it in person and definitely virtually, because you're doing all sorts of things. You're meeting with senior leaders virtually, you're meeting with clients virtually. So it's critical. And I always tell people, lighting, that's super, super, super important, not only in terms of reflecting yourself truly the way that you are virtually, but so that people can clearly see you, your facial expressions, you can really connect, using your hands, all of those things to generate your personality and energy. Any clothing decisions, right? So expressing yourself through different accessories. You can see I have on this fun necklace, and, I might have on slippers on my feet, which is great. But, I have this fun necklace and headband up top because I want to show people who I am and express myself. So, those are simple things that you can do, but it's absolutely critical to be able to have that presence in the virtual world as well.
Yeah, and maybe I'll be a little controversial here. I think it also, when you look beautiful, you always look beautiful, but it also shows there's a respect level.
Yes.
I do value your time. I value, even if I'm wearing shorts and slippers or pajamas, but we're having a meeting. I would never go to an in-person meeting where I didn't look put together. That's something, thanks, Mom, you've taught me over and over for years and years, is that you show up and you present yourself. And that's what people remember. And I think we've kind of tended to be like, well, it's only on Zoom. It's also important to be on video. And not everybody can be on video all the time, but in an important meeting, in a meeting with your manager or a client or your team, it is really nice to be able to see that, so that we can connect and there is that level of respect. I'm showing up for you.
Right. I totally agree. I mean, it's almost like being on time.
Yes.
It's the small things that you can do to just show respect for other people and, their time that they're spending with you. So you don't have to be like super dressy, it's just coming and representing yourself fully and your energy and your personality. And those are all things that style can help you do. So I don't think that's controversial at all. I think it is a sign of respect. If I showed up in sweats, and I'm not saying anything bad about sweats,
right?
But with all clothing, there are different associations we have with clothing. So when someone is in sweats, that's a sign that they're just like really ready to relax and just kind of veg out and all of that, which might not necessarily be the impression you'd want to receive from someone in an important meeting. So it just goes back to the associations that we have with clothing throughout history, and those things, continue to play a role.
There's validation on the chat, Cat Valley. Absolutely putting your best head and shoulders on Zoom is a must. So, I just feel I feel that's important, right? I want to make sure that I look my best. I probably use a little bit more lipstick right now, but that's okay. I've been talking
look great
5 minutes. I want to switch gears because I want to talk about and I want to talk about Verizon, because again, if we think about 20 months ago, and even you were 6 months into starting your business, you're now working with we.nyc, which we.nyc is women entrepreneurs. It's a city-funded program for small business owners, women entrepreneurs here in New York. I'm a part of it. I'm a mentor and I love it. And you are not only that, you are a small business expert nationally that was announced through Verizon and their small business digital ready platform, which is, applause, 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 because I know you. And I think 20 months ago, even 12 months ago, if I would have said, Elizabeth, you're going to be talking about building a business, you're going to be on the Verizon platform, you would have been like, Kate, you're nuts.
I probably would have said that. Yes.
Let's dive into the Verizon. I mean, we're partners with Verizon in this platform, and we're really pushing our business owners and our founders and our entrepreneurs to access this platform because it is free. And oh, by the way, if you do take a certain number of their courses, you can apply for a grant. Why was this so relevant? Or first of all, why you on this platform? What are you talking to business owners about as a small business expert?
Totally. Well, first I have to give another shout out to you and Luminary, because I was introduced to We NYC through Luminary. Cate, as she mentioned, is a mentor, and I went to one of her sessions on how she built her business and was connected with We NYC leaders through that. And that's how all of this happens. So you never know which stones will be unturned by going where. You just have to show up to places. That's one of the biggest things I've learned. But in terms of the program, Verizon Digital Ready, it is fabulous. I'm not just saying that because I'm part of it. It's a really great program. And I think one of the big pain points that they fix or help to fix is that a lot of businesses don't have a presence online or digitally. And, they're just kind of started and work with people in their networks or, people in the neighborhood. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but just think of the customers, nationally, even statewide, you could gain by having that online presence, by having the website, by knowing social media and beyond. Those are just a couple of the parts that I talk about. But in terms of my course, it's called Connecting to Customers, and it's all about branding your business. And, really doing that, thinking about your target customer, thinking about competition and how to set yourself apart. And then once you have that value proposition, how to really express that, to your customers and all the different sorts of ways and outlets you can do that through. And so in terms of why me, well, I think I had the great opportunity to do it, through those connections. But also I do have experience, as a small business owner, and then just in terms of branding in general and sort of my background in that. So that's the knowledge that I bring to the program. And I think what's so great is that you don't only have the course, it actually has takeaways for all the courses. So you can actually sit down and you can do the whole thing, through learning your positioning, through all of the different outlets and ways you're going to do it. Like it comes with those handouts. Yeah. And in addition to my course, there are ones on like cybersecurity. There are, ones on like legal and how to do all of that. I mean, it's really just a whole suite of tools that small businesses can use. It has financial support. We do office hours each month. So I just did one last month. I have one coming up in a couple of weeks. So it's a really great program.
It is. I put the link in the banner. So it's just really easy. Verizon.com/small business digital ready. And one of the things, Elizabeth, I love about the program is that wherever you're at on your entrepreneurial journey, it's actually going to help you create a pathway for that.
Yes.
Right? You may be 5 years in, you may be just thinking about it, but through this platform, it actually can create where you're at and what you're needing. One of the things that you mentioned is branding, right? So as business owners, we are so focused on, I've got to get it off the ground. I've got to execute. I've got to get customers. I got to get revenue. When we think about branding, it's often one of the biggest barricades or barriers for businesses because they don't have a CMO or they don't have that experience. I know I've experienced that over and over and over. So as you think about small businesses and the branding aspect, can you share a tip or two that you would talk through to a business owner? I know I will learn from it.
I don't know about that, but the way that I think about branding, there are lots and lots of different definitions, but I always think of it as humanizing a business. So if a business were a person, what would their personality be like? What would their style be like? What do you know them as a person? Cate, I know you as, an amazing, inspirational, kind of get it done person who's built this. And that's what I know Cate as. So that's the sort of brand that I would associate her with. So I think that's the simplest definition. Defining that is hard because you can't just do it from your mind and what you want to be. You have to make sure it actually resonates with customers because you want customers. But once you have that foundation ready, it honestly makes all of the rest of your decisions really easy. So it makes, the colors that you use easy. It makes the sort of outlets that you use to advertise your business easier. If I know that my target customer is a mom with small kids, then the type of partners that I'm going to seek, the type of publicity I'm going to seek, and those outlets are going to be very different than if it's, a single man.
Right.
So I think once you define that business as a human being, then you are much more able to, get the customers and stand for something in the minds of your customers. And once you have that emotional connection with a customer, like you are off to the races. That's hard to do.
It is. I mean, I think again, we're focused on execution, but your brand is who you are, right? I tell that to my team. Whether you work for Colgate, whether you work for JP Morgan, whether you work for Luminary or Brand Style Bloom, you're showing up for that brand, right? You represent the brand. One of the things I've been hearing quite a bit, and I teach my business plan boot camp every month. I have the Whisper Network, all these different things and I want to hear from women in corporate. I want to hear from women who are in entrepreneurial. I continue to hear this. I don't want to be the face of the brand. I don't want it to be about me. What would you say to that? Because so much, and you are your brand, right? Yes. You are your brand. I am my brand. What would you say to that founder that says, I don't want to be the face of it. It shouldn't be about me. How would you kind of counteract that?
Well, I think you have to be the face of your brand. I completely understand that it is scary. And trust me, when I first started out, the thought of doing video or social media in general, because I was not on social media, like I had a profile, I barely did anything, was so scary. But people want to connect to a person. A business is just something that they, spend money on. Like they want to have that like, know, and trust factor with a person who represents the business, has the passion for the business, and actually cares about them. People don't think as a business, of caring for them, or like a corporation as caring for them, but they do think of a human as caring for them and someone who they can be friends with and build trust with. And at the end of the day, if you sell services that are very similar to another competitor, and a lot of the times that is the case, it's very hard to create something brand new. What's going to make the difference is the connection that they have with you, the individual. So you don't necessarily have to share things that are really private. The other day on Instagram, I just got a new puppy.
I know. Can we see the puppy? Because I've only seen it on Instagram.
She's behind her crate right now.
Okay. Well, if she comes out, we'll want to see her.
If she comes out, totally. If not, look at my Instagram, everyone, at Brand Style Bloom, and you can see a picture of her. But I don't want to just share business stuff. I want to share life stuff, but things that aren't, super private, but things that are important to me. So my new puppy was important to me. And I know a lot of people during the pandemic have gotten puppies. And I wanted to be able to connect with people on that level, not just what I offer them through my business, but just lifestyle things. And when people can build those bonds with you and have those things in common with you, they're going to think about you for when that need arises for what you offer. So it's critically important to step out as the face of your business, but don't think that you're revealing, all of your secrets. It doesn't have to be like that.
No, I totally agree. I think that especially as you're starting a company,
Yes,
people
for sure.
people identify with you. They identify with your story. I talk a lot about this in my boot camp. They want to know who they're buying from. And even large companies, right? I think even now more than ever, particularly after the events of last summer with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, people are wanting to know when companies are saying something, do they really have purpose? Are they really putting their money where their mouth is? Are they living up to those values and those missions that they talk about? It's much easier to identify with a small business because you can see that owner. For bigger companies, I start to look at the board. I start to look at the leadership table. I want to know that they're actually investing in their pipeline for women. That's what my company stands for. So the driver's seat, we as consumers are in the driver's seat. So when you think about, I want to look at those companies that I like. I want to feel like I know those founders. And to your point, sharing a little bit about your personal side, right? I've shared about my struggles with infertility because that's very personal, but it's very important to me. And I want those stories to be told. You hear a lot of our especially in our community, about cancer survivors, grief. You don't have to share everything, but so people can connect with you. This humanization is so important. And it goes back to it goes back to everything that you're doing, Elizabeth, in bringing your true self to the Zoom, to the office, to your company. And Brand Style Bloom is part of that evolution.
It is. And I have so much gratitude to all of the mentors and people who've helped me on my journey, because I know that being an entrepreneur can be a lonely road. I felt very lonely just starting out. So I think, having that network and people who can pump you up when you're feeling discouraged, and people to connect with who are going through the same struggles, it's very important to have that village. And not to plug Digital Ready again, but that's another great thing about it, is that they encourage that community aspect and the ability to connect with other business owners.
Oh, I totally agree. It's why Luminary was so excited to announce our partnership with Verizon. And again, I put it in the banner. It's verizon.com/small business digital ready. So if you are a business owner contemplating becoming one, a side hustler, I would encourage you to take a look. It is all free, and it's something that Verizon is heavily committed to, supporting 1 million small businesses by 2030. A huge task, but there are so many of us that need support. And I'm going to plug you, Elizabeth, so you can follow Brand Style and Bloom at brand_style_bloom and brandstylebloom.com. I can't wait to see you in person again. I know you're very busy with the company and with a new puppy, but Elizabeth, it is so great to see you thriving. And I never had a doubt. I remember that first conversation in Luminary, sitting in the corner in the kitchen.
Yes.
About your business. And I'm thrilled to see everything that you are accomplishing. You're evolving, you're adapting, and what you're doing is changing the world. So congratulations.
Even just a little bit feels really
Even
good.
just every little bit counts, right?
Yes, every little bit counts.
And all of those collective voices, all of that little change can make a big, 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 important change in the world. So thank you, Elizabeth, for joining Goaldigger today. Everyone, it is Thanksgiving next week, so we will not be in studio, but join us that first week. I think it's December 2nd or 3rd. I can't remember. My dates are kind of moving together. We'll be back with Goaldigger, and we will have another Verizon Small Business Digital Ready expert, Sir Bilal, talking about the future of work. But thanks, Elizabeth. Have a great weekend and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Yay. Thank you for having me. Happy Thanksgiving to you and everybody. Thank you.
Everyone stay safe, stay healthy, enjoy time with family and friends. Really take some time off. We plan to at Luminary, and have a great Thanksgiving. We'll see you in a week and a half.